Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy, y'all. This is Red O'Loughlin. We're on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And we had an Army veteran on our last show, the corner bookstore, just a few minutes ago. We have another Army veteran today. Veterans abound. And on the next show, you're going to have a Navy veteran, me. So today is kind of a veteran kind of day. Rob Campbell, Colonel, U.S. Army, almost 30 years. He got invitations to Iraq and Afghanistan, and also some of the relief efforts down in Katrina. So he's seen the battlefields, and since his retirement, he's now seeing the boardroom. So a lot of different challenges, and we're going to talk about many, many different things. But Colonel, please join me.
Hey, Red.
Just another wonderful day in paradise, eh?
Yes, sir.
We were talking just briefly backstage, and you're talking about people-centric leadership. And I know when I'm hiring somebody, I really want to avoid people problems. I can generally get the technical understanding of, can they do the job? Are they equipped with the skill set to do the job that's required?
Right.
But are they going to destroy the cohesiveness that I have? And that's one of the issues that really and truly plagues leaders in any industry, whether it's literally at the top of the boardroom, the top of government, in your social sewing circle that you have. There's always that problem child that becomes an issue. So why don't we start off with, that's the direction we're going to go in. But you entered the Army and advanced up the ranks, retired not that many years ago. Let's talk a little bit just to kind of get people a feel for who you are, what have you done, and set the stage for your leadership successes and failures and what you've learned.
You bet. Massachusetts native, born and raised. And if you'd asked me if I was going to be a career Army officer in high school, I would have laughed at you. I had no desires. My dad was in the reserves. I was a very patriotic American, but went off to college to get a business degree. And it was there where I was a basketball fanatic and didn't make the team. And that passion ended like that. So I was broke as well. And the Massachusetts Army National Guard was offering some great benefits. And there it was. I stepped into it, said, okay, yeah, I could do this. Why not? And went off to basic training, and the Army did its work on me, turning me into a soldier. And there it was. I found my passion in the military. I came back to college, went to ROTC, got commissioned as an officer, and took off out of a full-time Army career in 1990. Army Ranger paratrooper, led at several levels all the way up to brigade command in the 101st Airborne Division. And then in 2016, my wife and I wanted to take a different path and try out something new, close that chapter out. And so we stepped off into the unknown and military transition. It was tough, ups and downs, but we're having a blast. And that's where I really jumped into business ownership. Wrote a book on leadership, which is where I talked about my people-centric leadership approach, how most of the problems in an organization are leadership problems. And I was able to bring all those lessons, successes and failures of a 27-year career on 3 combat tours to the, public sector, the private sector, and through that book and my consulting practice. And then I really got interested in entrepreneurship. So I bought a small business, a blinds business, which is where I'm coming from today, and then started a painting company. So I've really jumped into entrepreneurship, but I brought that leadership and my veteran experience to bear in that. And that's where I'm at today, just having a blast and doing some hair growth experiments and just enjoying each day.
Yeah, hair growth is one of those things I gave up on many, many years ago. Yeah, it seemed like just about the time I was a teenager, it started going away. I got married very early in my 20s, and it was gone. And other than Vietnam, where I got a chance to grow a beard, I come home with one, and my whoa. And then so we kind of compromised a little bit. I would start on the vernal equinox and shave it on the autumnal equinox. So in the summer I had a beard, during the winter I didn't. It was just that's the way things work. And again, beards aren't for everyone. Some people look really good in them, and some don't. It just, but again, if your spouse likes it, that's two thumbs up, because that's a big deal. You got to live with your spouse. Anyway, you ended up in war zones. You commanded up to, I think, almost 5,000 people at one time. Uh, but when you look at leadership, that leadership is 4 or 5 people immediately around you. It's the overall organization that you're responsible for, and not only that, it's your interface with the 2 or 3 levels above you, because there's always that communication that's going to go both ways.
Indeed.
So, what successes and what failures did you have? I'm going to say on the battlefield, because that's really where things are tested, communications.
For sure. There's so much to mention. I believe any failures that I had maybe stem from a few things. I didn't know myself well enough. Even all those years in the military, what I teach now, step one in leadership, is knowing oneself, and then understanding how you're going to react to different things and how you will respond to scenarios and situations. Are you introverted, extroverted, dominant, non-dominant, patient, impatient? Are you nonconformist? And all those things come into play. And I really didn't focus a lot on those early in my career. And so where they might have blown up on me is where, like, I'm not a details guy. I know that very well about myself right now. And if I'm thrust into a combat scenario where I need to be a details guy, I round myself out with people, like I say, to protect me from myself, to gather those details where I can strengthen myself as a leader to be able to make the most informed decision. And so I might have sped too quickly towards some decisions in combat that luckily, were compensated by leaders at different levels to be able to overcome the day, but where I own the failure in those for sure. And then, of course, knowing your people on a deeper level. How is John going to respond versus Sarah based on who they are and what motivates them and what makes them tick? And knowing my leaders to a deeper level was something I didn't invest enough time in as a junior officer. As I grew and matured, I did. And because of that, I was able to lead them differently, because you need to apply your leadership differently to different people. And that's what I was able to do once I had a sense of who they were and what made them tick, and also pick those right leaders for scenarios, which I may not have done. I put some leaders in scenarios where they weren't the best for it. I should have chosen somebody else. And then, of course, going back to knowing myself, that's the crux of any of the failures I believe that I have, looking back on them and the ownership I had in them. Because of who I was, and because I either did or did not know somebody well enough, I sped towards solutions. I made decisions that were ill-informed and wound up as mistakes.
I've always tried to choose somebody I think is going to be competent for the job. But as an engineer, as an infantryman, whatever that specialty is, they're very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to be a very good leader, supervisor. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. And I have to tell the person, yeah, I don't mind you making a mistake as long as you learn from it. But when I get the other people coming up to me and say, hey, I got a real problem with Rob, it's something that's difficult to deal with. And you spend a lot of time talking about leadership and teams. So why don't we go into that a little bit, because I think that's super important for leaders today.
Yeah, you just mentioned something that, made me think, Red, and that is, taking ownership of a mistake and where mistakes happen, learning from them. That's the real gold mine right there. And man, I sprint to that. I mean, I just get to that as quickly as I can. Certainly, people need to be admonished, especially if there was malice and forethought associated with the mistake or the error. You've got to address that because that could be a character flaw or something like where they were acting a bit more selfishly than they should have. So you've got to address that for sure. That might take it will definitely take a difficult conversation, but you're going to get right to the learning. And often when a mistake occurs, when an error occurs, I go, okay, what's the lesson learned here? What did we learn from this so that we can grow and prevent it from happening again? And that captures the essence of leading teams. When it happens in a team, we all had stake in this. And some people might scratch their head. I wasn't even there when this went down. Yeah, okay, but you're a teammate here and you help your teammates when you think they may not know something, or you rush to their aid, or you communicate with each other so that you can help each other getting through this. And leading in teams is just that. I use sports analogy often where it's like a football team. If one of the linemen isn't doing his job, the quarterback can't do his, and vice versa. And so everyone's got to row together and look left and right and understand what's happening there. And the leader has to be the one that's kind of step out of that a little bit, up and above, and see the field and determine and know when that's not happening, to know that the team is not operating as a team, and speak that language all the time. I don't call my employees, I call them teammates. I refer to them that way all the time. I'll say, how is this beneficial to the team? How does this benefit to the team? Or how did the team break down in this error that just occurred? Okay, it happened to an individual, but we're all together here because anything a soldier ever did wrong, I was always, okay, where was his buddy? Where was her buddy? And that's how you're leading teams, is thinking of it just like that.
Listening to you, watching you give a keynote speak down here in the Houston area, not that many, a couple, 3 years ago. And you also were an author at the event, and we shared some thoughts. But you establish credibility as a speaker when you're introduced as an author. But you even get more credibility when you're speaking on a topic that you wrote about. And when I look at the books that you've written, I get a couple of them that I've read, and it's interesting that you bring up the details that went through your mind at the time because these things happen. Uh, how difficult was it to write that first book?
It was a challenge. I had not done that before. But again, like I always do in leadership, I'm a group think kind of guy. I'm always thinking about, okay, someone's been down this road already. Whether I outrank them or not, they've got the experience I don't. So I did reach out to people in that journey of writing. I had a writer coach in the first book, and she set me up for success. I've been able to do it on my own ever since. But it was hard, and for a variety of reasons. I was looking back at it and say, okay, is this of value, or is this just me, the senior officer, rambling on in a meeting, and no one's going to really pay attention to it? And so I had to really look through that lens in writing that first book to see if it would be of value. The other one is, will it sell? I never thought of that in the military. I never had to think of it in the military. I had authority. These were my orders, move out. In a book, you're trying to get someone to pull it off the shelf. So you're wanting all of that stuff to be there. I mean, the stories that you tell. And this goes to speaking, like you just mentioned. I've learned a ton about speaking too. I did a ton of it in the military, but I had authority. I had a captive audience because I outranked it. But in the private sector now, speaking, you got to deliver to capture that audience. And what an audience wants is to be entertained, informed, and inspired. And you do that through stories. And that's what I tried to weave into the books, because that's what people want. They want a story. Okay, I didn't evaluate this person well enough. I didn't know them well enough. And this is what happened. And I take them through that story, tell them that story, and they learn from it and they're captivated by it. It's the same thing in speaking. And so that's what I've really tried to do in all of my books is to tell those stories from the deep experience I had of almost, 30 years of leadership, just a plethora of lessons that I'm thankful I've got that I can pull forward.
About your speaking down here in Houston was your ability to interweave humor. You're talking about, okay, I'm a retired colonel. Back when I was a colonel, these things happen. Now all of a sudden I'm a business owner and I got to mow the yard. I got to do everything because I don't have a sergeant over here to take care of it. And so when you transition out of the military, especially out of the long-term military, not only is it eye-opening when you try to do something and be responsible for it, but there's no really, I mean, you get a book coach, that's easy, but you don't get a business coach per se that says, okay, now it's time to do the laundry because it's Saturday and we need to get it done. There are just too many things that we don't know about as business owners, entrepreneurs, and just boom, we're thrust into it. So tell us a little bit about your story on that.
Yeah, that's a great one, Red. And there's so much to that, and it speaks to military transition and what it is you go through when you do that. Whether you serve 4 years or you do 27 like me, it's a massive leap because you become so accustomed to a profession where there's a lot of things you just don't think about. And you can operate and do a lot of things because you've got this extensive network of support or people that are on your team that you can hand off tasks to. But the second you transition, that stuff goes away like that. It's like, poof, it's gone. Oh my God, I don't have that authority anymore. I can't wear that rank anymore. People won't respond like they used to. I have this blank sheet of paper in front of me that I now have to write my next set of orders and which direction I'm headed. Goodness gracious. And in a small business, these people aren't going to respond to me as they would in the military with my legal authority and the ability I had to punish them if they didn't. On the outside, it's they can walk away from you. Now, that doesn't mean I cower and soften too much, but you've got to approach things differently in the private sector because they don't have the military training and discipline and values and ethics that you find in service. They're wonderful people. I love the people in my small businesses. They're just the nicest people on the planet, but you got to lead them differently because you don't have that anymore. And you would think it's easy. Red, I'm almost 10 years since I separated, 2016. And I still feel like I can do things because I can hand them to a staff and they can put it together and come back. And I'm awakened often to the point, to the realization that I'm all by myself. I can't reach out to my left and right and grab my buddy. There isn't this extensive amount of support behind me like I had in the military. If I'm in a pinch, I'm by myself, and it's frightening. It's really frightening for service members because we're never alone in the military. So there's just so much about it, just stepping into the abyss of military transition, whether you go off and get a job or you do like I did and start and buy small businesses. But it's a wonderful learning journey, and I'm enjoying every day of it. But it is a challenge because I'm still very much Colonel Rob Campbell roaming the earth. I just can't wear the rank anymore.
It's interesting because you mentioned a term a little while ago, the ability of your team, their captive audience is what I was trying to think of.
Right.
In the military, you have a captive audience. In civilian life, they can leave. And that makes all the difference in the world. And so that's a major change from military thinking to civilian thinking. And we have a commercial break coming up here in about 30 seconds or so.
Okay.
So with that, what I'd like to do is come back and kind of touch into your coaching program. I know there's a lot of stuff there on your website about that. I'm pretty impressed with the way it was set up. So we'll go into, let's finish up with the captive audience versus the military environment versus now you're at the whims of, hey, if that guy leaves tomorrow, I'm stumped. So let's finish up on that thought, and then let's start getting into your coaching business, okay?
You bet. Yeah. The
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Steve Klein Art at steveklein.art.
My name is Steve Klein, born Manchester, England, 1953. My quest in my lifetime is to create artwork from my soul and the deepness within my wildest dreams and fantasies. In 2012, my heart stopped when I was given too much anesthetic for a minor knee operation, and this near-death experience took me to another multidimensional world, an out-of-body experience, and I was given the gift of being blessed by an overwhelming, burning passion to become, for the very first time in my life, an artist with an eternal, passionate desire to bring my art, which I've named multidimensional, subliminal, freeform art, to the world, as only 3% recover from what I experienced, and now in my golden years want to release my cosmic, vital energy through my art to allow people to be a part of my cosmic dance.
To learn more, email roccogoodwine@gmail.com. For VIP pricing, mention USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, Rhoda Laughlin here. We're on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. We have Army veteran Colonel Rob Campbell, transitioned from the Army almost 10 years ago into being a business owner and an author, a speaker, a coach, a number of things. So, Rob, please join me back on stage.
I'm here.
Sorry to cut you off there. That commercial just came boom. I apologize for that. Moving right along, we talked about a captive audience versus a non-captive audience. And then we said we come back and just touch on that and then move into your coaching expertise.
Sure. There's a pressure that's there, Red, that is not there in the military. I've often said in a variety of ways and scenarios that the military is easy. In terms of career progression, I could see a decade ahead of my career. On the outside, you can't. You have a blank sheet of paper. I had legal authority. I could direct things and I would get people to respond to them immediately. On the outside, I don't. So those things were easy in the middle. Like I didn't have to think about healthcare, a lot of different things. It was automatic in the military, easy, right? On the outside, the pressure is there. Like I said earlier, speaking as a colonel in front of a group of soldiers, captive audience. I mean, nobody would want to fall asleep or look like they had lost, we're not paying attention, that kind of audience. On the outside, the pressure is there. I have to perform. I've got to deliver something of value. I've got to entertain. I've got to humor. I've got to inspire. So you've got to weave all that into your speaking. Same thing with leading in a private business. You've got to create that culture environment that they want to be in, where the biggest problem for them, the fear for them would be being kicked off the team. And even with the business existence, my brigade in the Army was never going out of business, ever. I never worried about payroll, not once. On the outside, pressure is there. So it's that leap we have to make and the adjustments we have to make, like in speaking, that you got to do to be able to survive and excel on the outside.
I've always been of the opinion that if you like your boss, you like your salary, you like your coworkers, you're never going to leave.
Yep.
But if any two of those three turn negative, you're gone. Because you can enjoy a good boss, salary to be not worth crap, but your coworkers are neat. You enjoy going to work. You're happy. You could have a terrible boss, but your salary's too good to leave, and your coworkers are pretty decent. But that to me kind of summarizes the non-captive audience, because in a captive audience, you don't have a choice. Your salary's there, your coworkers there, your boss. You don't have it. But in the civilian world, your boss is flexible, your salary is flexible, and your coworkers are flexible. Mm-hmm. And so when those things are flexible, you don't think about leaving unless hardship starts to you take home every night. The drama queens show up, and we don't need that. I can't sleep at night. I got problems, add weight, just a lot of stress. So those are things that are critical in the civilian world that we don't see in the military. And we're not trained in the military literally to deal with a lot of those, because you tell somebody to do something and it gets done. Yep. They may not like it, but in a civilian, well, that's not part of my job description. Yeah, but I need it done. And if the guy's a good guy or gal, they're going to do it because they love you. It needs to be done for the company. And so those are things that are a little bit different. So when you're coaching a client, how do you start evaluating the dynamics of that organization?
Yeah. Well, let me hit on coaching first to kind of give you a sense of what that is, and then I'll tie that into how you apply that to an organization, because I do individual leadership coaching, and coaching is the most transformational thing that's event crucible that life that a person will go through. You think of sports, it's an easy one. A coach takes player X from this point to this point in a growth and path by what he or she does. And it's phenomenal to watch that transformation in somebody. My job as a coach is to help an individual or an organization, for that matter, see things they can't see for themselves, because the answers are inside of them. It's my job to pull them out and get them to ask questions and tease out some things that might be there. Certainly, it does begin with knowing the individual, and that's the start point for me in coaching, is to have that really personal conversation, tell my journey, learn of their journey, and see if we can form some trust between us so that I can coach them. We can have those conversations. Same thing in an organization, where you go in and you help the organization see things it can't see for itself because it's so busy and it's moving so fast. I'm the guy that can pace myself and look above the fray to see what's missing and is not connecting, and then coach them into solutions. And it really is about getting them to answer the question of what needs to be done. I'm not a coach or a consultant that comes in and folds his arms and says, well, here's a process for you. Good luck. I wish you well. I like to be a part of the solution and kind of help them through. What do you think you could do? What steps could you take? What two parts of this problem over here, could we address to start moving forward on this thing? How would you lead differently, knowing what you know now from looking behind? All those kind of questions get their wheels turning and help them determine, well, if we tried this, okay, let's do that. And that's a great way to coach an individual and an organization into executing new plays on the playing field and seeing how they turn out, and then coaching them through that as well. And then the learning occurs over time.
I found occasionally, Rob's my number one team member, always there. Then all of a sudden he starts showing up late, has some issues. There's always something going on in our personal lives. It doesn't matter. But some of the real traumas that happen is, I've had employees die, and we don't know about it until a couple of days later. Somebody goes by the house to check on them. So death is a big one, and that's just a real traumatic experience. I got a call one day. Hey, boss, I'm in jail. I got a DUI. Yeah, and I'll be out in 3 days. Can you cover for me? You do what you need to do. Layoffs are always big in major companies. And when I would have my staff meetings, I'd say, ask me a question. If I can tell you something, I'll say, okay, this is what I know. But if I say I'm not allowed to talk about it, then something's coming. So it kind of gave them an unclassified way of saying, hey, layoffs are coming. So you're developing trust with that team. And sometimes we don't look at that trust when we're trying to work with the team. The team's just there and we're the boss. But I've always blamed it management by walking around, because you got to see people and what's going on, what's the noise level, what's their environment like. Those are things that are important to people where they're at, but we may never see those. So is that part of your coaching also?
It is. And you see it happening. Again, this is the coach, right? He's standing on the sideline, or he's at practice and he's watching things occur and he's seeing what's really going on there. What you were just talking about made me think about this a blog I once did called Gravity Works. And that is where the leader is down at the lowest levels, his or her sleeves rolled up in the mix, and not stepping back from that and seeing how the team is functioning from a higher level. It's natural, because we want to be there where all the busy work is happening. But our role as leaders, which is what we need to be loyal to, is the role that you fulfill, is that stepping back and seeing what's happening across the team, where you may pull two individuals out and say, hey, you two haven't been communicating enough. I can see that going on, or there's some dynamic going on here. And doing all that. And I think another piece to it is certainly empathy. You got the guy that calls, well, I got a DUI. I'll see you in 3 days. Can you cover for me? Or death in the family. Certainly, I lean more towards empathy, and I've got a big heart. I get burned sometimes with that. I really do. Even to the day, it's lessons I learned. It goes back to knowing the person and then doing your job as a leader to call out those deficiencies and have those hard conversations and seeing if they can meet you halfway. This is all coaching, and that's what leaders do, is they coach. And that's all part of the process. And the beauty of my role in my leadership business is I'm not in the organization. I'm just on the outside of it, but I have the freedom and the space to look at that stuff, to really be the coach and to help coach the coach, to lead their team better.
Part of our job is to be known and be available. Okay, Rob, you're a coach. I like what he's saying. But I noticed that when you sign up for your newsletter or your blog, you have over 1,000 subscribers on Substack. That's pretty impressive. How did that happen?
Through grit and showing up every day. And it really was like individual by individual, and placing myself in front of them and networking and being out there, which I enjoy doing, coming to Texas and speaking and meeting people there and saying, hey, I think you might enjoy my leadership blog, and sign them up one by one. And then it builds and grows over time.
The leadership, I remember as literally an 01 or in that process, you're always asking, yes, I remember the first time somebody asked me, define a leader for me. Well, I have no idea in the world. And then as I was working with, I like that question. Rob, define a leader for me. And it's different for everyone because you're basing it on your dad, your pastor, your college professor, your coach, your football coach. You're basing it on people when you don't really have experience as leaders. But as a leader, you adapt. Okay, I like what Patton did. And you read biographies and stuff. I like his logic as to why he's doing things. You learn and adapt, and you keep adding. It's a constant learning experience. And I'm sure you left the military 10 years ago, but you're still learning because it's a new industry. But from the leadership perspective, you're still learning. And why don't you share a little bit about the things that you think are important for leaders nowadays to be aware of, because they may not even know it's out there.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about identifying a leader. What am I looking for, right? If I've got somebody in the group here and I think that they may be a future leader, well, humble, hungry, and smart comes to mind. Somebody put that out there. It's someone else's term. But that works. And then there's some characteristics. I certainly think a set of values and code that they operate off of. There's some courage, their ability to communicate, be brave enough to step forward, do it, but also humble enough to share of your weaknesses. Like in my first book, I share my bio sketch, which talks about me, strengths and weaknesses, how I want to be remembered after I'm gone. And that's what I'm looking for in a leader when I look out there, and that they're smart, they're growing and learning as they go. And I consider myself a student of leadership to the day when I hear things and read books like, yeah, geez, what a great concept, man. I wish I had thought of that. And then grabbing bits and pieces of that and applying that to how I lead. My leadership is still growing and evolving today as I deal with the next generation. It's a new set of people to lead. And what are they looking for? What makes them tick? Because they're not like me. And I can't lead them like that. I've got to lead them differently. They're looking for lifestyle over job more so nowadays. So that applies for sure. But you're always learning and growing. And I think that comes from, as I said earlier, knowing yourself, but returning to that. It's not a one and done. Oh, yeah, I took the Myers-Briggs or I took the disc and I know myself. Great. What are you doing with that? And how do you revisit that? And part of that is introspection. Geez, I'm really feeling something right now after that thing that just happened. Why is that? What's going on? This failed completely, and it was two echelons from me. But what's my ownership of it? What did I miss? What could I have done? And when you have that introspective conversation with yourself, this is where learning comes from. And then as you thrust yourself into places like YouTube and books and podcasts and things, you see yourself in that, you reflect on those things, and you grab onto those concepts that you really love to try. And that's how you grow. I'm 57, and I know that I'll be a different leader in a few years from where I am right now. And I'm good with that. And that's part of being a leader, is knowing you've got to grow and evolve.
Well, Rob, as we're getting ready to wrap up here today, how do people get your books? How do they contact you for a speaking engagement? How do they contact you for a coaching conversation?
Yeah, the best place to go is my website. You've got it up here right now with my books. That's my third book, but it's robcampbellleadership.com. Another place to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. But on my website, you'll find all three of my books. The first one on leadership, it's personal, not personnel. The second one on military transition, which we touched on today, called At Ease. And then the third one, Left and Right of the Boom, Leading in Crisis, the one I just published last year. And you'll find my coaching on there, my speaking on there. It's all one-stop shopping. You can connect with me very easily from the website. Just got a few inquiries this morning. So it's great to see that people are visiting and are looking for help. And I tell everybody, there isn't a leadership challenge you'll come across that I haven't already screwed up 100 times and learned from it. And I'm ready to deliver my lessons.
Well, Rob, Colonel, I may say, Colonel, thank you so very much for your time today. People who need to get in touch with Rob, it's Rob, R-O-B, Campbell, CAMPBELL, leadership, just the way it's spelled, .com. No dashes, no periods, just Rob Campbell leadership.com. So, Rob, have a wonderful time. Look forward to our next conversation, and just have fun, enjoy life. We'll catch you later on.
Thank you, Red. See you soon.
I look forward to it. As we're wrapping up the last couple of minutes here on the Wise Ones today, our first show, the Corner Bookstore, we had an Army veteran. We just had another Army veteran on the Wise Ones. So today's kind of a veteran day. I always like to work with veterans. And the next show coming up is Talking Heads. It's a show that I present by myself, and I pick a topic. And a few months ago, I decided, why not focus rather than on a particular topic like cancer for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and talk a little bit about it each time. I decided, well, what if I had the topic of cancer? And I said, what would I do if I found out I had cancer? Because I'm a researcher. I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always treat symptoms. But the problem could get worse and you'll never know. So those are things that I look at, and I've looked at cancer. I looked at a number of different topics here over time. But today's topic is on fasting, and that's something that's literally near and dear to my heart, because it's a few years ago I was doing, a regular fast, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, 6-day fast every month. It didn't fail. Just boom, boom, boom. This past year, about June of last year, came down with shingles, and it devastated me for about 5 months. I was literally almost non-human for 3 of those 5 months and barely human for a couple. But regardless, I was in a major happiness part of my life with the fasting. I got out of it, and I'm having difficulty getting back in. It's a habit I got into easily. Well, maybe not easily, but I was in. Now I'm trying to reestablish that. But there are reasons why we fast. There are a lot of people that you'd be surprised at how little you can eat and live forever. So we're going to talk about fasting and the basic, what would I do? And that's the context of today's Talking Head. So Please join me. Take care. Bye, y'all.
Ever dreamed of hosting your own TV show, sharing your story with a global audience? Now's your chance to shine. At USA Global TV and Radio, we make it easy for you to create, host, and broadcast your very own TV show. Whether you're a storyteller, entrepreneur, or industry expert, we help you bring your vision to life. With our exclusive interview, live streaming, and podcasting training, you'll gain the skills and confidence to captivate your audience. Our global platform ensures your voice is heard worldwide. Join our community of creators who are already making an impact, one show at a time. Step into the spotlight. Host your own TV show on USA Global TV and Radio. Book your discovery call today at usaglobaltv.com. Copyright 2025 USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. To learn more, visit usaglobaltv.com. Have you ever felt unheard? Like your words float into a void, leaving you invisible and disconnected? How about feeling judged, when assumptions overshadow your truth, leaving you misunderstood and defensive? And then there's that moment when someone offers solutions you never asked for, dismissing your feelings and leaving you more frustrated than before. It doesn't have to be this way. Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the listening mentor, understands. She's here to help you reclaim your voice, build stronger connections, and create meaningful conversations that inspire understanding and mutual respect. Through her groundbreaking books, online and in-person courses, and interactive workshops, you'll learn how to navigate life's most challenging interactions. Discover the power of elevated listening and transform how you communicate. Master setting boundaries and asking permission to protect your peace. Learn to recognize and release judgment, fostering empathy and true connection. Dr. Kerbeck also offers personalized coaching, one-on-one or group sessions, designed to fit your unique needs. Whether in person or virtually on StreamYard, her guidance will empower you to thrive. You don't have to struggle alone. The path to deeper connections and better relationships start here. Visit drjacalyn.com or usaglobaltv.com. Join a global community of empowered listeners and transform your life, one meaningful conversation at a time. Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck is the listening mentor. Start your journey today. Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honored to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting. We're building bridges and changing lives, one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.